Greetings. This is General CJG here, coming to you with, this is a comic book story from Star Wars. Though this is one of the more odd ones because it's not only Legends, but it's also canon. So we're diving into one that's canon to both timelines. Yep, it's Darth Maul, son of Dathomir. This is going to be one hell of a ride. So, yeah. And for that, I'm joined here by.
The always fantastic Captain Henson.
Yep.
And this is the Spider-Fan Maniac.
Yep. I'm joined by Henson and Spider-Fan Maniac. And, well, we're going to dive into this comic. So, let's begin with issue 1.
Issue 1 begins with Maul in some kind of a location, being a prisoner by Palpatine. And then we got a flashback. No, we got Maul and Dooku talking about Mother Talzin, which is precisely the reason why they kept Maul alive. And then here's the flashback where we see a young Maul. This is what I refer as to version 3, which I previously mentioned in the Dark Plagueis novel. And it says, Maul was a child of Talzin and was sent as a gift. And he is not a baby. Okay. And then we see a bunch of Mandalorians commanded by Prime Minister Elmec, I assume, right?
It is him. Yeah, it is him.
Yeah.
To rescue Maul. And then Dooku tries to, quote-unquote, ask Maul for his cooperation. And then, since Maul is uncooperative, Dooku electrifies him. We then see a bunch of Mandalorians attacking the Separatist base to rescue Maul, and Maul escapes. And the droids, like the TCW version, are acting dumb. And General Grievous is tasked by Count Dooku to track Maul. And Maul finally gathers his warriors to prepare his battle, and then Grievous arrives to the scene. Grievous attacks a bunch of Mandalorian soldiers because, well, they're easy, I guess. Maul proudly says he's more than a match than Grievous, but Grievous just kicks Maul. That was anticlimactic.
Lol.
And then there's more attacks. Maul escapes, and Grievous says, like, Maul should not learn their real intentions. And I guess they do know Maul has returned to Mother Talzin, and the first issue ends.
Well, that was something. So, what do you guys think of this one?
Yeah, the first weird thing is, like, there's a scene where Maul and Dooku meet face to face, and they do not talk about Qui-Gon Jinn. In fact, I'm going to have to tell you the rest of the book. Qui-Gon Jinn is not mentioned.
Well, that's kind of missed potential now I think about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible we would have gotten that interaction if this story had been finished, I should say, made into actual episodes. Because, when you're working with a comic, obviously, you don't have as much time, so you have to get through the story quicker. But it is a missed opportunity nonetheless. Here's this guy who's face-to-face with the Sith, or the other Sith, who killed his fucking Padawan. But this is TCW Dooku we're talking about, who really had nothing going for him outside of being an evil douchebag, so...
Well, I guess there is that, yeah.
And the story's kind of also weird because Maul refers to Dooku, oh, Dooku, you're the fallen Jedi. And I'm like, I know Maul hasn't been running around the galaxy for that long, but shouldn't he be knowing who the leader of the CIS is? Like,
I mean, I'm sure Savage told him all about it.
Yeah, possibly. I think this is yet another symptom of this being a comic instead of a TV episode.
And then the little panel showing, we gotta talk about Maul's history for a second, because this managed to contradict what we read in Darth Plagueis.
Which already contradicted his previous backstory, so I guess we trade one for another.
Like, does anyone remember what happened in Darth Plagueis where Sidious sees Maul for the first time?
Yeah, basically, Palpatine is in one of the spaceports of Dathomir, the TCW Dathomir, and then some random Night Sister has a baby in her, and she basically gives it to Palpatine and says it's... I don't remember if she said it was a gift from Mother Talcin, but yeah, basically it's just random Night Sister hands out the baby. Turns out it's baby Darth Maul to Sidious, and Sidious has him, and that's how it is.
I mean, if I remember correctly, the reason that Night Sister gives Sidious Maul is because she wants to protect him from Talzin.
Yeah, that too.
And in the entirety of Darth Plagueis, Palpatine never once interacts with Talzin.
No.
Even though in TCW they clearly have a relationship. Now, I mean, it is possible that they had interactions after that, but with what we get here, they clearly had some kind of relationship before Maul even entered the picture.
It does make me wonder if the writers of this comic, they must... Do you think the writers of this comic and, the pencilers and whatever, do you think they actually, read that part of Darth Plagueis, or they just wanted to make their own thing?
That's the weird thing, because I think I read an interview about James Lucino clearly saying that he wrote that passage after having a discussion with Dave Filoni.
I wouldn't be surprised that actually happened, because James Lucino, he dives into the deepest parts of the expanded universe, and not to mention, he also wrote, what was it, Labyrinth of Evil, Cloak of Deception, and some other stuff. So he would have definitely known about the original origin of Darth Maul, the one that was made for him since 1999, that he was an Iridonian Sabrak, and Sidious found him in the streets of Iridonia and trained. So I wouldn't be surprised that it actually was because of TCW and because they changed it so much. Lucino was just forced to pretty much make this new backstory. Like, I would not be surprised if that's the case.
I mean, I always viewed it as Lucino took the few things we knew about his backstory in TCW at that time and just made something up.
Yeah, because TCW didn't really give us much.
And in this comic, Maul is already a child. And if you read the book, he was an infant. So, we have to...
And, I mean, this plays into one of my problems with how TCW portrays Maul. So it's not a problem exclusive to this comic or this story, but I don't like how much importance was placed on this character. Like, one of the things I thought worked really well about him in Phantom Menace, and even the pre-Phantom Menace sources, is that in the grand scheme of things, Maul was a nobody. Like, he did important shit, don't get me wrong. Like, he was vital to Sidious's overall plan. But at the end of the day, he could just be thrown to the side. At the end of the day, he was just a mere dog for Sidious. There wasn't anything more to him than that. But then TCW comes along and suddenly, he's smart enough to create a criminal organization and lead it. And then we get to this point where, he's, at least as far as we can tell based on this comic, he is the biological child of Mother Talzin. So yeah, he's the offspring of a cult leader, a literal witch, who Sidious kidnapped basically as a fuck you to Talzin.
Yeah, this...
I don't like how important Darth Maul has become to the greater Star Wars universe. And we would have seen more of that had we gotten Lucas's sequel trilogy, where he would have been the main fucking villain.
And who somehow came back, but that's a different topic.
Well, I mean, TCW already gave us that, but...
Well, there's that.
Yeah. he's just given way too much importance, in my opinion.
There's that, yeah. It is indeed. Yeah, he should have just died in episode 1. Saved ended until DCW came along.
What I also noticed in here is like Grievous supposedly here just like seems to be competent enough to fight Maul here, and then he just instead of he just kicks Maul like he's nothing. Like, do these people confuse which version of Grievous they're writing a story about? I mean, I'm not really complaining because Grievous seems like semi-competent, not as competent as he was in the micro series and the multimedia project, but like I don't know how to feel about this.
I
mean, Grievous is still severely underpowered, even in that scene. It really is unfortunate.
Yeah, indeed.
It's like, imagine pre-TCW Grievous fighting this version of Maul, and that would have been a fucking fight.
Mm.
And oh, wait. And then I also noticed something. If you read the comic here, there's a Mandalorian with the name Cast. Does that remind you of someone?
Are you talking about Jodo Cast?
Yeah, because that's the weird thing. Jodo Cast is not a Mandalorian.
Wait, doesn't he appear into what, 4 ABY or 9 ABY? Like that
Yeah,
far away?
but the weird thing this comic is showing is like there's like a female Mandalorian who's called Rook Cast. I don't know what they were trying to imply. Were they trying to imply that this character and Jodo Cast were related?
Oh,
and, Jodo Cast has Mandalorian heritage?
By the way, that female is Rook Cast, so this is probably the cast.
No, but I'm trying to think because Dave Filoni does some weird use and, messes up the lore. So I'm trying to wonder if, Jodo Cast, is it implying in here that Jodo Cast has some kind of a Mandalorian heritage? And he wasn't, after all, he wasn't some random guy wearing Mandalorian armor? What is this implying?
I mean, keep in mind, if you go back and watch the behind-the-scenes featurette for the first Mandalorian arc we get in Season 2, there's a segment where Filoni talks about how pretty much every Mandalorian EU thing we have is basically canon to TCW. So, make of that what you will.
It's canon, I guess, even though they make their own versions of Mandalorians, but whatever. So, DCW itself is whatever when it comes to it being its own can of worms. So
all of that to say, if there is a connection, then yes, I would say there is a connection.
Right now.
Yeah,
so the connection was deliberate, I should say.
Yeah, so like it seems like really coincidental, more like not. Like there's two people with the name Cass who happens to wear Mandalorian armor. I think this was Dave Filoni's way to make Jodo Cass a Mandalorian.
Likely.
Certainly possible.
Likely. So there is that. Okay, so anything else to mention on this issue, guys?
No.
Okay.
Nada.
Well, next, number 2. So, Henson, you want to take this one?
Okay, so Maul is able to contact Talzin, and thanks to specifically magic, they're able to talk, and they decide that Maul should regroup with his criminal organization and attack Separatists, the goal in which is to capture Dooku and Grievous. So yeah, we got the Mandalorians, Black Sun, and Pikes. In the meantime, Talzin will send them Night Brothers, led by a guy called Viscus. And so, once the Separatists come, big battle. Let's see, droid forces are sent. Oh no, they realize it's a trap. Dooku fights some Night Brothers, and, well, Grievous and Dooku are captured. Maul contacts Talzin again, and, well, it ends knowing that this should lead Sidious right to them.
Okay, so what do you guys think of this issue?
I don't know. There's barely any plot in this thing.
It is mostly action.
Yeah.
Oh, one thing I didn't notice is there's a character called Garth Saxon. Wait, did he appear in the first issue too? I forgot.
Maybe.
Yes.
Is because like Rebels will make Garth Saxon more important, but it just makes you wonder what might have been if these characters actually first appeared in the thing they're supposed to appear on screen. That is.
There's that, yeah. I did notice one kind of cool EU reference, and I know it's specific EU. In fact, an obscure one at that. Apparently, we got the B2 grapple droids in here. You know, those big super battle droid-looking droids that can pretty much grapple the shit out of Anakin and Obi-Wan. In the Episode 3 video game, they're actually here. Yeah. Like, their only appearances have been the video game, Star Wars Clone Wars Adventures Volume 8, and the second issue of Son of Dathomir. So, I guess that's a cool nod? Yeah, I actually do think it's a cool nod. So, there is that, and yeah, there's really more action. Actually, rereading this, I forgot, I completely forgot that TCW actually made the Magna Guards apparently protect Dooku, even though they're supposed to be Grievous's bodyguards. Like, I completely forgot about that until I read this comic and pretty much remembered, oh yeah, I forgot TCW made that discrepancy too. So, that's something.
And then here's the thing where, bunch of Mandalorian start, and, Black Sun and Pike make an appearance as Deathborn and not Dooku when he was trying to kill this Sabrak. But I'm like, can Dooku just force lightning them?
Yeah, I say so.
Because I'm pretty sure after this scene in this issue, Dooku gets captured in the next issue, right?
Keep in mind, their goal is to find Talzin. Getting captured was, at least to some extent, part of the plan.
In a way, he was, yeah. Wasn't he the plan, yeah.
I will say this, it was nice to see Dooku in action.
Oh, yeah.
At least he wasn't fucking nerfed like Grievous was.
And
Grievous we do see doing cool stuff, but again, because this is a TCW story, he's not as effective as you would think this guy would be.
And I'm kind of confused about Mother Talzin. Like, does she have a physical form, or like, what is going on with her actually?
Well, what she's trying to do is get herself a body, so she doesn't have a physical form until the last issue.
Yeah, she just seems to be just a spirit essence that Maul can summon. So.
And this is the reason why I say it's weird, because the Night Sisters, the Dathomir and witches, they use the dark side of the Force. It's called magic, but we know it's the Force, so, it is what it is. But
that would be the case, except that the CW treats it so much like magic.
And even Disney Canon clearly states that magic is a manifestation of the Force. So, this Mother Talzin's spirit form is essentially a dark side Force ghost.
I could believe that, yeah, that it is a sort of Force ghost, but I think we'll discuss the magic shenanigans when we get to the final issue, when we see full extent how it goes. So guys, anything else to mention on this issue?
No.
Okay, so now we go into issue 3. So issue 3, it begins with basically Palpatine discussing with Mace Windu what is going on in terms of the big battle happening in Ord Mantell. And, well, Windu and Kenobi with some other Jedi are there, also pretty much checking what the hell happened. And they're pretty much like, oh, yeah, Darth Maul, he must be behind this one, especially as there's Mandalorians and the Black Sun here. So let's pretty much find them and basically bring them to justice, that sort of stuff. And then we see Maul contacting Sidious, pretty much telling him, I captured Dooku, I captured Grievous, so now, pretty much, lure him and kill him. And then Sidious is like, kill Dooku, Grievous, they're failures, gives a shit about them. So yeah, but then he ends the transmission and Maul's like, take Grievous out of here and Dooku, you stay here with me, so they can pretty much discuss stuff. Then Obi-Wan and Master T, I think she's called T, pretty much on their way to intercept Maul and his forces. And then Maul is pretty much discussing with Dooku to pretty much make Dooku join him, to join forces against Darth Sidious. And even goes as far as pretty much showing pretty much Mother Talsing herself, showing face to face, or I guess her spirit form being face to face with Dooku, and pretty much trying to persuade Dooku into joining them, saying that Sidious will betray you as he betrayed us. I will honor our alliance should you accept it. Join us, and together we can destroy Sidious and rule the galaxy. And so, yeah, they're discussing that. Meanwhile, secretly, Dooku used the Force to pretty much open General Grievous' cell, so he managed to escape. And Maul didn't notice that somehow, but okay. And meanwhile, the Republic are attacking, and they pretty much are now storming the fortress. Grievous managed to escape, and then Maul is like, so, which will it be, allies or death? And then Dooku's like, let us go kill some Jedi together. And Maul pretty much frees him and gives him a lightsaber. And it's like, why is this issue? And they went and together fought against Obi-Wan and all the Jedi. Obi-Wan, Mace Windu, Aayla Secura, and Master T. And they pretty much are fighting. And, well, Master Chipley is killed by Dooku. And, yeah, then one Mandalorian throws a missile and Maul and Dooku escape. So, yeah. That went well for Maul, I guess. Not so much for the Republic. So, yeah. Then, meanwhile, Mace Windu gets contacted by the Chancellor, and Windu pretty much tells him that, yeah, Maul and Dooku are now, they're now working together. They have an alliance now, and who knows what their next plan is. And then secretly, Sidious is saying, I fear in the end it could prove disastrous for the Republic. Well, not so much secretly, he's more like just saying that to Windu, but if you know the reflection, you know that's pretty much Sidious, pretty much saying, yeah, not good for my plans. And that's where it ends. So, yeah, what do you guys think of this one?
Yeah, I noticed certain weird things, like Mace Windu at the end of the comic basically says something like, Dooku is the Sith Master we have been seeking along, and Maul is the apprentice. Like, a moron! Dooku was still in the Jedi Order when Maul appeared in Naboo. How do you think Dooku is the Sith Master? Are you retarded?
I forgot about that entirely. Yeah, that's so true. Oh, God.
I mean, it's also possible that, similar to what we see with Palpatine, he was always secretly a Sith, for all they know.
I mean, there's that, but if you remember in episode 2, Dooku's the one that confirms that the Sith Master is the same one that pretty much trained Maul, so Dooku could not be the Sith Master.
Keep in mind, Yoda also said we shouldn't trust what he says. He's a Sith Lord now.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure in Season 6, through a vision, Yoda clearly sees Darth Sidious.
Oh.
And they later learn Dooku's name is Tyrannus. So Yoda and certain parts of the Jedi Order, even within the context of TCW, knows that there is a Darth Sidious.
Oh, God, yeah.
And Dooku is not Darth Sidious.
Yeah.
So this comic makes no sense, and Mace Windu is a goddamn moron for even saying something like that. I bet, Palpatine is laughing his ass up and thinking, like, this bald-headed dude is a moron.
I mean, he probably thought that anyway, ever since the beginning. But yeah, this probably made him laugh his ass off secretly. So, yeah, but actually, yeah, that is true. And Season 6 had already debuted before this comic even released. So, yeah. And when does this comic take place? It's supposed to take place simultaneously season 6? Or
After
6 or
season
after?
6.
Yeah, after.
So what are
Yeah.
you talking about? It's supposed to take place during season 7,
Oh,
which
well.
means after season 6.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, then there's no reason why Windu would even be saying that Dooku's a Sith Master, yeah.
Well, then again, TCW was the type to do things out of order for no reason.
That was only the 3 seasons.
Yeah, I was gonna say, wasn't it only the first 2 seasons?
And the weird thing about this is, like, Maul was disappeared, and he was full with rage, and something like, even Maul implies that, he was gone from the galaxy for, like, a decade or more. So to think that Maul is the apprentice, and Dooku is the master, is like, that's stupid!
Yeah, I don't know what they were thinking when writing that dialogue for Windu. Who knows?
And then there's something it's shown in TCW I really hate. Like, guys, it's not 2005 anymore. We know Palpatine is Sidious. Like, in TCW, if you watch, Palpatine, while they don't literally say Palpatine is Sidious, they do this weird thing in the animation where they show shadows or Palpatine laughing in an evil way or something. I mean, just say Palpatine is Sidious.
More like show the Palpatine is serious in his hood.
Yeah, like, even in this comic, like, there's Palpatine's reflection on the last page, and it's grinning in this weird way, showing that he's evil or something. Like, why do you do this? We already know he's Sidious.
Even the excuse of, when the prequels were coming out, they didn't want it to reveal at the time for the new audience. Even that excuse falls flat when TCW is doing it because, again, we already have all 6 movies. And by that point, every Star Wars fan would have already seen it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, by this point, there is no reason to do this.
You know what the TCW tie-ins do? For example, the novelization, Wild Space, and No Prisoners. They don't do this. They literally show Palpatine thinking in his mind as Darth Sidious. They don't try to, imply Palpatine is Sidious. Like, why are you implying Palpatine is Sidious in 2014?
Yeah, this is something. This is
Like, what do you think about that, Henson?
I mean, the way I see it, the story clearly says that Palpatine is Sidious. Like, it doesn't leave any room for interpretation. So, like, it doesn't need to directly say Sidious is Palpatine because you read the fucking thing and it's really fucking obvious. And the visual indicators are one of those indicators I'm talking about. Like, when he's looking through his window and we see a reflection that's very Sidious-like, you know what the fuck they're saying there.
And this is the reason why I don't take the notion that TCW is Imperial propaganda. Because why would they show Palpatine being clearly evil like this?
Well, there is that. Then again, would the comics be that? I don't know. That's a whole other topic for another time in regards to if this is propaganda or not. So, but anyway, so back to this comic. This one also had plenty of action and definitely, Dooku and Maul fighting together. That certainly is an interesting scenario. Like, I guess we have had, Sidious and Vader fighting together and maybe Dooku and Sidious fighting together before, but have we seen like 2 Sith Lords or Sith Warriors fight together like this, especially against Jedi? Excluding Old Republic. Obviously, we did have lots of Old Republic sort like that.
And I don't know about this, like, Obi-Wan and this other Jedi is showing the lightning. I guess in the Attack of the Clones, the reason that Obi-Wan was easily able to deflect lightning was because Dooku was clearly toying with Obi-Wan. But I think in this situation, Dooku wasn't really toying with everyone. And, Obi-Wan and this other Jedi are easily blocking the lightning with their lightsabers. I find it kind of odd.
I mean, we know lightsabers can deflect force lightning.
I mean, they could, but the assumption I had is in Attack of the Clones, when, Obi-Wan was easily deflecting lightning, it's because Dooku wasn't really trying to, kill Obi-Wan with his lightning. And if you actually see Revenge of the Sith, both Sidious and Windu are struggling when Windu was trying to block the lightning with his lightsaber, right?
I mean, he was struggling, but he was still able to redirect it. So I don't think it's out of the realm possibility that they can deflect it. It's just that when it comes to Dooku, when he uses the force lightning, rarely I guess aside from Anakin, rarely have we seen it actually fully electrocuting Jedi. I mean, I guess in the EU we do have a Sarge Ventress, we have Anakin in episode 2. Like, he has electrocuted some, but it seems like a good chunk of people are able to pretty much just deflect the Force lightning. So I don't think this is necessarily unusual for Jedi to deflect Force lightning. What would be unusual is basically what Yoda can do with Force lightning, using to menace. That's the most unusual when it comes to Force lightning confrontations. So.
Yeah, and this absolute stupidity in Mandalorian. There's a scene where one of them fires a rocket from the jetpack of Lord Maul, and then right before it hits, he says incoming, like, what? This is absolutely stupid. Like, what if you actually killed him?
He probably expected Maul to actually survive.
And he says incoming, so Ayla Secura, and even, I think it's Mace Windu in there, correct?
Yeah, it's Windu.
They could all dodge.
Yeah.
It's kind of a weird thing.
Yeah, that's just Mandalorian pretty much fighting the rocket, expecting Maul to survive and the others to either survive or die, so whatever. That was something. Yeah. Is there anything else you guys want to discuss with this issue?
We do get an interesting parallel to Revenge of the Sith, right now, Attack of the Clones. There is a scene where Talzin talks to Dooku and she says that Sidious is looking for a new apprentice. And Dooku doesn't say anything, kind of keeps silent, so I don't know if he's in a similar situation to Obi-Wan, where it's like, I don't believe you, but there's that.
In a sense, it's probably true that he doesn't believe her, because the episode 3 novelization pretty much makes it that Dooku, actually didn't believe it.
I mean, even just looking at the movie, he's clearly shocked.
No. Here's the thing. Dooku always knew, according to Revenge of the Sith novel, Dooku always knew that Palpatine was trying to recruit Anakin to the Sith cause. So, but he always thought he was gonna be Palpatine's right-hand man. He didn't know that, his part would be replaced by Anakin. Dooku always knew that Anakin was gonna be part of the Sith plan and Palpatine would recruit him. The one mistake he did not know was being foolish to think that he had a part in the Empire.
Basically, he really did not expect Sidious to truly betray him.
Yeah.
And here we have Talzin saying that, yes, he will.
And he does.
Though in the next issue, we'll see why apparently Dooku did not take that warning into consideration. So, shall we get on to the last issue?
Yeah.
Okay, last issue. So this it, definitely. So Maul and Mandalorians and Dooku are heading to their next stronghold, to Dathomir. And in there, well, apparently Maul tells Dooku that, you thought we were truly allies. Our alliance must have been fake. This probably Sidious's will all along. He probably instructed you to play this game, but nah, you're unmatched. So I'm taking you prisoner and pretty much taking you to Dathomir so you can pretty much be part of my plan. And so they arrive, and most like preparations ready, and yeah, we're ready. And they arrive to the inner chambers, the heart of Mother Talzin's, where the heart of Mother Talzin's power is. And in there, well, let's just say that Mother Talzin apparently, so she decides to do something interesting to Dooku. And while that's happening, Sidious and Grievous are on their way to Dathomir. And by the way, they are using I guess the exact same fighter Darth Maul used in Episode 1, or maybe a different, the same, just a different, another unit. I don't know, but yeah, they activate cloaking and they go in, and in there, well, it apparently Dooku's life force seems to be drained, but actually it's more like Mother Talzin is actually going to take possession of Dooku's body while also sucking on the life force. So that's messed up. And then Grievous and Sidious arrive, and yep, then a big fight. Well, big fight was going to begin. Then we see quickly Rook Cast talking with the Black Sun and the Pikes, where they're pretty much asking, "Where's Maul? We need to deal with him directly." And it's like, just follow your orders. Lord Maul's location is your concern. And then we go to Maul going to fight Sidious and Grievous. And then, well, Mother Talzin takes Dooku's body, and yeah, it's on. So Maul is fighting Grievous while Dooku is fighting Sidious. The only thing is, while Talzin is controlling Dooku's body, she can't really use it properly, and well, Palpatine pretty much manages to use Force Lightning and force Talzin out of Dooku's body. And so she is now truly in her physical form, so no longer a spirit, because she absorbed Dooku's life force, or a good chunk of it. And well, then they're going to fight. Then we get another discussion between Rookcast and Black Sun and the Pikes, and basically they're having some big discussions. Then a separatist invasion fleet is approaching Dathomir. Then we're still seeing the battle, Maul versus Grievous, and Maul managed to pretty much force push Grievous out of the place. And then Talzin and Sidious are having a Force Lightning battle. Yeah, one of those. It's actually a cool spectacle, but yeah, they have one battle, and then Maul pretty much gives strength to Talzin, and then Dooku joins in to the Force Lightning battle, and then Grievous is slowly getting in, and then Talzin tells Maul, "Go, escape. I can only hold it for you to escape. You need to escape." And Maul escapes. The Mandalorians even arrive, forcing him to leave. And then Grievous pretty much kills Mother Talzin, and yeah, that's basically the end of Mother Talzin. And Palpatine is like, all went according to plan, so nothing here was lost. And yeah, so that's pretty much the end of the issue. So, yeah, so what do you guys think of this one? And the whole comic, I guess.
So, Sidious and Dooku working together, using their force abilities against a common enemy is fucking cool. Mm-hmm. And Grievous, and the visual of Grievous just walking through that shit and killing Talzin was also great.
And I also see here that Grievous is fighting Maul 1-1. And I don't know, he seems a little too competent for TCW Maul. Kind of weird.
Well, it certainly is weird regarding Grievous, because both this arc and the Crystal Crisis arc, which we got in, I believe it's animatic form, Grievous is shown to have, like, moments of his pre-TCW self of being a ruthless monster, or I should say, like, an unstoppable force. Like, someone that you really wouldn't want to be in the same room with. And it's like, where the fuck was this for, like, the entire series?
I guess someone remembered that, Grievous was supposed to invade Coruscant and capture Palpatine.
This is supposed to be the guy who is so important to the Separatists that killing or capturing him will literally end the war by the time we get to episode 3. Mm-hmm. And yet we don't see that until the fucking end!
Oops.
It's mind-boggling.
Well.
Ugh.
I guess there's that in there.
And I'm constantly being confused by Mother Talzin's form. Like, what is this? Like, is her spirit and her physical form the same thing? Like, she just gets too much energy from Dooku and then she just manifests a physical form like What is going on with this?
Yeah, see, I think this is where we now should discuss this magic, if you want to call it that, I guess. Yeah. So, I, I mean, can dark side force ghosts, at least before GW, can they like just straight up use some sort of life force sucking power entering bodies
Well,
and
keep in mind, dark side force ghosts don't exist in TCW.
oh,
Remember, the whole reason we didn't see Revan and Bane in the Mortis arc is because, according to Dave Filoni, according to George Lucas, Darksiders can't manifest themselves as Force ghosts.
well,
So Talzin here is not a Force ghost.
so then that means that this is not dark side powers. This is actual magic?
Dathomirian magic is dark side force manifestation.
Well, I mean that's in the context of the EU, but TCW likes to say something else.
And I think even Disney Star Wars says that. I don't know about that, but
I mean, I think the implication is magic does exist, and yes, it does have a connection to the Force, but magic is also kind of sort of its own thing.
wait, doesn't Mace Windu literally said to Mace, Mother tells him that magic is an illusion, so it's not really a thing?
Oh,
I mean, I don't know. With what we see the Dathomirians do in TCW, like so much of that you cannot just explain away with the Force. Like they are able to literally bend reality.
by the way, apparently Wikipedia does try to explain it because it apparently lumped everything that the Witches of Dathomir, the Night Sisters do, including from the Courtship of Princess Leia and the other EU sources before TCW. It tries to put all of that and calls it Dathomir magic or shadow magic.
What about Disney Star Wars? That's also the Force, right?
Disney Star Wars actually goes as far as calling it magic with a K at the end, a C and a K, and then also says also known as shadow magic, force magic, or force sorcery. As in this is Star Wars. In the EU, it's called Dathomir magic or shadow magic or alien magic. Apparently, it's described as a general name given to use the use of the force powers by Witches of Dathomir, except that, yeah, we do see that in the pre-TCW sources that it is indeed the force, it's not magic, but TCW, it just does whatever it wants, like, it just puts a whole new meaning to Dathomir magics that we just, at this point, don't know if it is the force or if it really is magic.
In the context of TCW, it is supposed to just be, like, fantasy-esque magic with an obvious connection to the Force because the Force connects to everything, but it's still its own distinct thing.
You know, technically this is not connected to this comic itself, but I find it funny that, Black Sun doesn't really know it was Maul who ran around killing all the Beagles and their organization like 10-something years ago. I found this to be funny, so...
The species there, it's called the Falleen, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, this is more of just a general TCW thing, but I'll just say it here. One of the things that really bothers me about Black Sun is that the only members of that organization we see are Falleen, and I am sure the only fucking reason that's the case is because of Prince Shizor in Shadows of the Empire.
Yeah.
Because, as we clearly saw in the Darth Maul miniseries,
Yeah.
that species is not intrinsically tied to that organization.
Yeah, we are humans, Twi'leks. There was even a dog, I think.
You had a whole mix of alien race, like, it was just a criminal organization. But I'm sure because Prince Shizor was the leader in Shadows of the Empire, somebody, I'm sure Dave Filoni, figured, oh, yeah, this species is just running this like, this is a Falleen-owned organization.
Yeah, I mean, this is not the Trade Federation, goddammit.
Because, one, in order to use the Black Sun, you need to have at least some bit of knowledge on the EU. At least Shadows of the Empire.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think that's why that's the case.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of the Darth Maul comic and Black Sun, there also was one Night Sister being one of the protectors of one of the Black Sun people, if I recall, in that comic.
The leader, yeah.
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 So.
And do you know what Plagueis book said? When you approach her, she will immediately recognize you as a Night Brother. Spoilers, she doesn't. Because the comic was made in 2001.
Yeah, it was literally 1,000. So, yeah.
The comic really, or that interaction really was interesting, because if I remember correctly, she asks him, "Do you know what I am?" And he says, "A Dathomirian witch." At least the way I read it, even with TCW in mind, like, he knows about these witches. He may have even, like, met some of them in person, but he's not, like, he doesn't have any, like, bond to them. But then, of course, well, then again, we also don't know how much he knew about his Dathomirian heritage before TCW.
By the way, what Maul actually says is a Night Sister, a witch of Dathomir, skilled in the use of the dark side of the Force. That's his actual response.
Okay, so yeah, like, clearly he doesn't, like, the way I read that is he's pretty much spouting what he's learned about them.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, based on everything we know about his TCW backstory, I guess the same can apply, because he doesn't really know. He doesn't have experience on Dathomir because he was taken away as a baby, but still.
Well, that's if we take Plagueis. If we take this comic, then that's a whole different kind of worms.
Well, even in this comic, he was taken by Sidious as a baby.
Well,
so you might knew the Night Sisters growing up. But another weird thing is, like, this comic series does not really feature other Dathomirian. We see the other Zabraks, the Dathomirian type, but we don't see the other witches.
All the Night Sisters at this point are dead.
They're dead, yeah.
In terms of, yes, they're all dead.
Yeah, about that. This is why TCW's existence is problematic, because we actually get to see more witches of the Night Sisters when we go by Courtship of Princess Leia and the Lost Jedi novel.
But with something like Courtship, the Night Sisters here have a particular, like, they're a particular species of humanoid. They're not exactly human.
It is actually described as a witch Dathomir, a good chunk of them being human. It's just that the ones that like to practice the dark side more, they apparently became more Night Sisters. So they are actually human, or mostly human at least.
I guess the point I was trying to make was, at least in terms of this particular clan of Night Sister, yeah, no, it's completely wiped out.
This is why. So maybe they're trying to retcon it, saying that, they're the successors only sharing the name, or maybe there are some survivors, like TCW existence is so problematic, because Dave Filoni did not do his research.
Or rather,
he didn't care. Yeah.
Because, we've clearly seen that, to some extent, research or knowledge of the EU is there. It's just a matter of
basic normie shit.
Well, more so, rather, what can we do with our own ideas, implementing EU stuff here and there, and at the end of the day, it's all about what Georgie wants. And if Georgie wants something like bringing back Darth Maul for some fucking reason, by God, they're gonna fucking do it.
Which was not allowed for the first 3 times, but TCW had that privilege of bringing him back.
Yeah,
it certainly is interesting because, and this is just a larger conversation, but, like, you look at it, and George Lucas, for whatever fucking reason, really grew a fondness for Darth Maul that even I don't understand. Like, he wanted the TCW crew to bring back this character somehow in the show. With what we were supposed to get in the Darth Maul game, the studio was Red Fly, right?
Red
That
Fly
was the
Studios,
studio.
yeah.
Yeah, Red Fly was already going to do a Darth Maul game, but then when they brought their ideas to George Lucas, according to them, George Lucas gave them the idea to have Maul and Talon working together. And when they brought up the fact that Talon wouldn't exist at this point in the timeline, or whenever the game was supposed to take place, George was like, oh, well, maybe it's a clone or a descendant or doppelganger or whatever. And then, of course, Darth Maul was supposed to be the main villain, or at least a major part in his sequel trilogy. And what we know about his sequel trilogy, he would have been in control, or Maul would have been in control of some sect of the underworld, as we see established in TCW. So, I don't fucking get why George really liked this path for Darth Maul as a character, but here we fucking are.
Well,
Basically, what I'm saying is, if you don't like what they did with Darth Maul, blame George Lucas. This is entirely on him.
Well, in that sense, yeah. So, since we're now discussing how, I guess, this comic impacted both timeline and TCW, I guess we should now discuss on how this comic impacts both timelines, Legends and Canon. With Canon, it's pretty simple to say that I guess this comic is... I mean, is it canon in Disney Star Wars?
I mean, it is, but here's the issue with that. You have to read this comic to understand what the hell is going on in Season 7, because the last time people saw Maul, I think it was like Season 5, was it?
Yes.
Season
The
6
finale
Maul
to
did it.
Season 5, yes.
It happens like Maul getting tortured by Sidious, and then it just ends. And then in Season 7, with the Siege of Mandalore, for whatever reason, Maul appears. Didn't you say, Henson, that no one attempts to explain why Maul is somehow free and running around, right?
There is no explanation as to how Maul got from the end of his last appearance to his appearance in Season 7.
As an animated appearance, to be precise.
Yes, within TCW itself, last time you saw him, he was being electrocuted by Sidious, and Sidious saying he had other uses for him. And then he just is back on Mandalore without explanation.
Mhm.
So you would have at least needed some familiarity with this comic to understand how the fuck that happened. And I mean, it's a simple explanation, really. It's not like this is a complicated story, but you do need it. And it's also important because this is the death of Talzin, who was a really important character in TCW. Same thing with Dark Disciple and Ventress. Like, these are stories you need in order to have a complete TCW experience.
In Disney Star Wars, yeah.
And not to mention, it also explains why Sidious didn't really care to do anything about Maul at that point, because, you know, this, like, I think it's the last line of this comic where Sidious is like, oh, we've done all we can, Maul is no longer a threat to us.
It basically says that Maul's future has been erased, while ours is more certain than it has ever been.
And another example would be Solo. I mean, Solo not that important, but the average audience, right, at the time, the last time they saw Maul, unless you watch Rebels, but most likely unlikely, they also don't know why Maul is suddenly on the galaxy free.
Oh,
right?
yeah. I remember...
But then again, general audiences wouldn't have watched TCW anyway.
Or general audience wouldn't even know why Maul is alive to begin with.
Oh, I firsthand saw it with some of my friends that did see Solo, which weren't many, by the way. But the ones that did see it, and I guess also my dad, they were all questioning why Darth Maul was alive. They thought he died in Episode 1.
Which, yeah.
Which you were out of the loop for a long time, but
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, you know what? I can give credit to the filmmakers of that movie for just saying, fuck it.
I guess that's one way to see it.
Well, yeah, because, I mean, you would have to be, in this case, like, a fan to know why the fuck or how the fuck Maul is even here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so suffice it to say, you needed to read this comic to understand
But-
how Maul survived, or how Maul escaped Sidious.
Yeah.
But I guess a quick thing I found, I can share the link with you, General, but in 2020, in preparation for season 7, Sam Witwer gave a interview with a Holocron blog, I guess it was called. And he says this at some point. When it came to coming back to do TCW version of Maul, I had to rewatch a lot of the Clone Wars stuff and see where he was at. But then we're propelling him out of Son of Dathomir, which we wish we were able to do, but we didn't get to do. It's too bad, but those events, according to me and Dave and George Lucas, did occur. So, if you wanted an official confirmation that yes, this is seen as like G or T canon, whatever.
In Disney Star Wars, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Okay, so in Disney Star Wars, yeah, it is indeed canon. As for the EU timeline, well, it is canon. It's just that we never got to see what happened with Maul after this.
Yeah, I mean, this comic ends with Maul fleeing back to Mandalore, and then he disappears. What? Yeah, because the weird thing is, like, because this is part of the same continuity as EU, future sources tell that there's like a new Mandalore called ARC Trooper Spar. He becomes the leader of the Mandalorians. And obviously, Maul is not mentioned because the story was not supposed to exist in the first place.
There's also the fact that, well, a lot of sources say Maul died in episode 1, but that's more of TCW's fault, not this comic. So, but obviously this comic is continuing what TCW does. So, obviously in the EU, yeah, this story existing creates plenty of issues, but that's more of TCW itself being the issue here. No explanation what happened to Maul after it. If he had to just died here, then at least that would be something. But no, we don't have that.
Well, that's because, we were supposed to get him in the Siege of Mandalore, which never happened within the EU timeline.
I guess Maul disappears and someone replaces him is the official explanation and that is conjecture. I mean, it is conjecture with some other sources because future sources, as in sources that takes place after this, Maul is not the Mandalore anymore. Wait, should we refer Maul as a Mandalore?
I don't even know. I don't even know what the hell he was. I mean, was the Resonara even a thing in TCW?
I mean, that's not. I mean, the quote-unquote leader of the Mandalorians are called the Mandalore, so technically, Duchess Satine was Mandalore. I'm only talking about in the most literal sense.
I guess.
And Maul was the Mandalore, and then ARC Trooper Spar later comes and replaces him.
Well, I guess talking about the story of General Grievous novella for Galaxies, we do get a, albeit indirect, reference to Maul, although this was more in reference to his Old Wounds appearance.
It's more of Old Wounds, not talking about this comic.
But still, I mean, in terms of where Darth Maul winds up, that's what we got.
Yeah, we do not know who he is, but he is a old cyborg apprentice and former enemy of Obi-Wan. Yeah, we know who you're talking about.
Look at the exact quote. It's a cyborg acquaintance of Obi-Wan's, an old enemy. This novella, short story, whatever, was written or released in 2006. Old Wounds was released in 2005. So, at least as far as we can gather, Old Wounds, to some extent, did happen, or at the very least, Maul did survive that far into things.
There is the case that the entirety of Wikipedia puts Old Wounds as non-canon. Every single source says it, like from the
I mean,
from the comic entry itself to the Darth Maul.
But I mean, you can't take everything Wikipedia says as 100% fact.
Well, I know
I
that, but the
mean,
reason why they're saying it is because Leland Chi himself said this shit is non-canon.
I mean, that's the weird thing because we know that story, Star Wars Tales comic, where Maul somehow comes back to life and fights Darth Vader, right?
Yeah, Tales 9.
That story is partially canon, as in Darth Vader fought someone in that exact planet, but the identity of the person he fought is not Maul.
We also have to keep in mind that we have to also change a lot of the details of that comic, like removing the prophets of the dark side and all that shit, because we know that they didn't die at the hands of Sidious in there. They were still alive post that, so obviously that is a very dubious as canon territory if that shit did end up being canon. In regards to the old ones, it will have to be a very, 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 very as canon territory, like, because there's so much stuff in this straight up is very contradictory to the entire DU, and I'm not just talking about Maul's resurrection. So, but even if we take old wounds into, even if somehow it was canon as C canon because of that 2006 story, no other source that comes out after old wounds in the essential guides or any other source pretty much has any accounts or anything of the old wounds events. None of it. Like Obi-Wan doesn't have any records of it. Luke doesn't talk about it in the essential guides. Like nothing. We get no other references to old wounds other than just that 2006 story, and that's it.
And then there's another story about a Iridonian scientist who somehow found the brain of Darth Maul and then put it in a hologram projector. What was it? Projector.
Yeah, some holo projector of sorts. Yeah. So.
Yeah. You know what the the Star Wars Encyclopedia says? These stories do something stupid. They say, oh, the Iridonian scientist found some brain. But the encyclopedia never clarifies whose brain he found.
That is something I have noticed when it comes to the S-canon / N-canon stuff, when it's referenced in more C-canon material, is that instead of just directly saying a name or confirming something, they'll be vague about it, such as the case of this 2006 story of an old cyborg acquaintance of Obi-Wan, an old enemy.
Which could really be anything.
Which is, no, it's clearly Darth Maul.
Yeah, because
old wounds.
Yeah, because Grievous is dead.
Obtuse about it.
No, because it is clearly Maul, because Grievous at the time was clearly dead. Dirge was also dead, which leaves only one possibility. That is,
there is that. Those
Maul.
Cyborg could be anybody. Who knows? Maybe it could. Well, we know it could not be Darth Vader because he never visits Tatooine. But I don't know. It's just its vagueness does not help. That's basically what I'm getting at.
Well, that's the thing, though. It's clearly Darth Maul. It's vague enough so that they could have plausible deniability, but with the time it was released and with how it's described, it can't be anyone other than Darth Maul.
It probably is Maul, yeah. But
probably it is Maul. Unless there's a really obscure character where you don't know about.
No, I'm saying they were indirectly referencing Maul, but they said, oh, old acquaintance cyborg, blah blah blah, to say that if anyone complains about resurrecting Maul, they could, after denial, they could deny it.
Because keep in mind that story was written by Abel G. Pena, who's a continuity nut. Like, he knows his shit, and he will do deep dives, like really serious deep dives into the lore, and connect things together, or reference shit like from the old Marvel comic. So him referencing Darth Maul here in regards to old wounds makes sense.
Oh yeah.
As to why he would do it, I don't fucking know, but he did it.
Frankly, to be honest, at this point, it doesn't really matter because even if Even if Old Wounds was as canon or it remained then canon at this point, it doesn't matter because TCW pretty much resurrected Maul. So by this point, Old Wounds does have more leeway into actually being at least S canon or C canon thanks to TCW. So
Yeah, and something that is really weird is because I partially consider Old Wounds as canon now due to TCW because if you read Old Wounds, right, there's like a flashback of Maul saying, I barely missed you on Camino. I find you at Geonosis. And then I killed a Tordarian junk dealer, which I think Henson and I had a conversation about him being clearly Watto, but the comic doesn't explicitly tell it's Watto. Another one of those wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yes, my line.
yeah.
I mean, here's what I believe. I mean, like, I don't do headcanon bullshit, but this is one of those things where I think there's enough evidence to say that, to some extent, Old Wounds did happen. As for the specifics, who can say, but at the very least, Darth Maul tracking down Obi-Wan to Tatooine and them fighting, I think that did happen in the EU.
Yeah, especially if we want to explain how, any final fate of Maul in the EU.
Well, I mean, it's not even just wanting to explain what happened to Maul. I mean, just based on the evidence we have, I think Old Wounds did happen to some extent.
I guess there's that, yeah.
But then again, that's one of the big problems when dealing with the canon hierarchy, in that it's complete fucking bullshit.
Leland Chi used to promise that when, TCW finishes, he was gonna completely, fix up the continuity.
Well,
that never happened.
No, he didn't get his chance.
So then you have to wonder, is it because he went back on his word, or because the new higher-ups were like, don't fucking bother?
Probably the latter, if you ask me.
I mean, I'm sure that was the case. I mean, at least based on what I know about Leland Chi, he doesn't seem like the type to just say something and then not follow through.
He still says that he still adds elements from the SWTOR trailers, the cinematic ones, and the SWTOR lore information to the holocron. So the holocron is still expanding.
Well,
that thing is not dead.
Well, I mean, to be fair, that's because SWTOR was the only new EU content we got post-2014, aside from obviously the few comics that we got. So that's pretty much the only reason why the holocron is being updated, is because that is new EU material, so he does have to add it there. So it's just.
I mean, the holocron was really more a Lucas licensing thing, so it makes sense to keep it up and running.
Mm-hmm. And then, speaking of Lucas licensing, the Revenge of the Sith novelization, I have to mention again, clearly states that Obi-Wan killed a Zabrak on Naboo. So this is just a maybe, since it's a G-canon source. Maybe Obi-Wan and Maul had a final rematch during the Clone Wars in Naboo again. I mean, I know
the book says 3 times that Obi-Wan killed the Zabrak Sith Lord in Naboo. 3 times it mentions it.
Yeah. No, I know, but I know the original intention was Obi-Wan killed him during episode 1, but we can use mental gymnastics, and I have to emphasize mental gymnastics, to say Obi-Wan and Maul were like, we finished here what we did 10 years ago. And then they had a last battle to the death on Naboo for whatever reason.
Well, obviously we have to do a lot of mental gymnastics to even put Old Wounds into the timeline. But then again, that's what TCW did, so I guess part of the course now. So
yeah,
there is that indeed. So yeah, so that seems to be the state of what this comic, Son of Dathomir, did to both timelines. So in both, it's pretty much required. So yeah, I guess that's all we gotta say in regards to whether you need to read this comic or not. And yeah, the answer is yes on both timelines. So that much easier. So any final thoughts to say on this one, guys? The conclusion now?
Well, just that as a fan of TCW, I enjoy this comic. But I mean, even putting that aside, there's nothing like overtly offensive about it. And any issues it does have is just stemming from it being TCW. And I'd say it's a fun enough read. We do get some interesting character interactions here. And plus it does conclude certain things from TCW, so I would say if you want closure on certain things, read it.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. Doan?
I mean, it's not the worst thing or the best thing. I think it was okay. Yeah, okay is the word I would describe.
Okay. Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay. As for me, well, the comic, it was definitely fun to read. Definitely had solid art style, and it pretty much, well, it was entertaining enough to read. Even as a TCW story, yeah, it was entertaining to read and everything. So yeah, those that like TCW 2008, or those that I guess are fans of Darth Maul, especially TCW's version of it, and yeah, read this. Definitely it is. It's definitely one that will be worth the time for anybody, whether it's because you like Darth Maul or you need to read the comic for specific reasons. Yeah, this comic definitely is a worthwhile read. So, yeah, definitely read it, and you can pretty much find it in Legends. I think it's Clone Wars Volume 4, I believe that it's there. So, yeah, you could pretty much just read it there. And so, yeah, that's all I gotta say on this one. And well, we will see you guys on the next State of Star Wars video. Bye bye.
Bye.
See ya.